right. Let me know. Here we go. Just get the old comment section going here. So we've got a bit of that. And count us down, and we're probably set to go. All right. Live. Welcome to it. DSPN, Martin Devlin, Lachlan Waugh, post-match versus England. Comments are open and available, and here's a fair few of them in already. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks very much to Novus, who sponsored this podcast, Webwonks, who are an associate sponsor of this podcast as well. And thank you very much to you, our audience, who obviously love coming on, watching and listening to us have a good rave about rugby. We just lost to England. As you know, we got belted by England. I'm not angry. No. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because it just feels also predictable. A couple of weeks ago, I sat here after we lost to... we didn't. We beat Ireland. There you go. I felt like we'd almost lost that game because of the way that we played, because for the first 60 minutes, we were just so incoherent and bumbling and stumbling and clunky, it was called. And I wore a hell of a lot that week. Oh, you're negative. Oh, you're not a fan. You're not a supporter. What concerned me and worried me about that game has now been laid out in front of us when we played England. You know, the other coaches in world rugby aren't fans of the All Blacks. They're not sycophants. They're not giggle fest. They don't care about the social media posts from New Zealand rugby. They just look and analyse how we're playing and where we're vulnerable. And clearly we are very vulnerable. May I say, and I should have said this right at the very start, congratulations, you Pommies. Well done, England. Well played. You were magnificent. That wasn't an ambush. That was clinical. You cut us to bits. Lots and lots of positives for England. I'm trying to think of a couple for us. The first 30 minutes was okay. We didn't concede any penalties. One or two individuals played well. The sun is shining outside here where we live. That's it. As far as our performance goes, there are no positives. We are clueless. We are rudderless. And our coach looks equally confused and bemused on the sideline. We have zero leadership on the field, it seems, and we'll go through some of the poor decisions that were made, poor plays that were made, and the mistakes. We play like a bunch of individuals. I don't know what our game plan is. Tactically, I have no clue what we're trying to do. And we just got exposed. Now, if you take out the South African result at Eden Park, and you can't take that out, I know, but let's just park that for a second. How do you rate our season? Our game plan seems to be hope. Let's hope that in the final quarter of a test match, we play really well and have a classic All Black comeback. Because it worked against Ireland and it worked against Scotland and it didn't work against England. I think that we are an easy team to beat at the moment. And I think that the guns have to point fairly and squarely at Coach Razor Robertson and his coaching group. And I'll say this before we get into the comments, Lachlan, and welcome along. Every 2 years between World Cups, the All Blacks coach, his contract expired and he was either going to reapply. And every time they rubber stamp it, apart from with Foz, they were actually thinking about not rubber stamping. I want Scott Robertson to coach us through to 2027. But I think what needs to happen right now is I think press pause, and every single other member of his coaching staff needs to reapply for their jobs. And New Zealand Rugby need to appoint a panel, not of a consulting company and a recruitment management company.
Are you calling for a review?
I'm saying that they need to appoint a panel of hard-ass ex-All Blacks, coaches and players who've been there and done that and know what it takes to win a World Cup, because this team is not winning a World Cup and these coaches are not going to coach us to win a World Cup. In 2 years under Scott Robertson, we haven't improved. That's the truth of it. As I said, I'm not angry. I'm just really disappointed. 26 test matches and we are a worse side than we were at the 2023 Rugby World Cup. That's just the truth of it. Now, in the next week and the next couple of weeks, you're going to get bombarded by the All Blacks PR machine. There's going to be stories about Razor's family, and there's going to be stories about players connecting with culture, and there's going to be a hell of a lot of All Black supporters all over the social media going, we love the team, we love the boys, I'm still behind you. All of that. I think that's all part of the problem, is that this rosy fluff and guff that surrounds this whole marketing machine of the All Blacks well, it's just promotion, and it's not actually true in terms of analysing and critiquing the team. And as I said after the Ireland Test, people, that's what the other coaches and teams are doing. They don't care about any of that. They just look at, are we good enough? How do we beat them? And at the moment, we're a bit too easy to beat. Keep the comments coming. There are plenty there already. We'll get to those in a second. But Lachlan, I don't have a list of positives today because I think that if you're sitting there looking at positives from the All Blacks' performance, you didn't watch the game.
I cannot believe I'm going to start with this. I will counter that. And I made a note of it here between minutes 10 and 19.
Here we go.
In terms of game specifics, for starters, I am as unhappy as you and every other person watching the stream with that performance and the defeat. Don't think for a second that I'm defending this All Black team. From minute 10 to 19, the All Blacks took control of that game and looked seriously good. We were hit with a lot of pressure early on. Physically, England were coming at us. The defence was rushing up quick, good line speed, and we were sort of a little bit panicked. And they had more of the ball and a bit more field position. The kicking game was starting to hurt us. But then we found our way into the contest. We scored 2 quick tries, and it made them question more or less what they were doing. England then sort of sat back, didn't do much for about 20 minutes really, until they got those drop goals towards the end of the first half when they got into our 22. So the All Blacks for that first half, I actually thought were playing really, really well. And I'll admit I watched this game delayed because I wasn't getting up beforehand, and I had seen the score, so I knew the result. And so when I was watching this, I thought, my goodness, we must really fall off a cliff if this is how we're playing right now, and we end up losing by 2 converted tries. We did fall off a cliff. Yeah. First half, and the end of the first half was a bit more even, and I think the scoreline flattered England a little bit. That second half was appalling from New Zealand. It wasn't as if we made really blatant errors, and it was obvious that we were just falling apart, balls to ground, knock-ons, giving away penalties. Discipline, by the way, the first half. We didn't give away a penalty in the first half.
We didn't. That was very good. That was good. Positive.
The first penalty was, I think, a very harsh yellow card on Cody Taylor. But
that was weird.
Hey, I don't know. This ref we know is quite a pedantic one, Piatti. So you've got to come to expect that. But yeah, second half, they turned it up, England. Physically, the breakdown, the counter-ruck was great. Their scrum was very good. Our advantage, the obvious advantage at line-out time, the first half sort of went down a bit. Kicking game, we were... Every test this year, we are the worst out of the two teams when it comes to kicking. No. The only person who can seem to kick a ball with a bit of accuracy and get a result out of it is Cam Roigard, who was missing the entire second half. I'm quite shocked that this All Black team in that second half, reminiscent of what happened in Wellington, they go out there and they have a plan A, and they execute that plan, and things may change, whether momentum swings, or they make a couple of mistakes, or they lose a player. There's no adjustment. There's this very famous saying in football that you earn your chocolates as a manager essentially by your ability to adjust during a game. It's the substitutes you make, how you come out and play in the second half, at least so about your pre-game game plan. And I'm just curious to know what's Razor's ability to adjust.
It's a great question, because there is no answer to that, because we haven't seen it at all year.
Yeah.
And look, you go through the second halves that we've played this year, people. Ireland, last 20 minutes. It was only the last 20 minutes. And at the time, there was a lot of suggestions about them being gassed and underdone. And I think if you look truthfully back at it, they probably were a little underdone. Against Scotland, second half, they come roaring back at us. 17-all. Again, last 10 minutes, we dominated. I'll give those two a couple of ticks. Buenos Aires, poor second half All Blacks. Wellington, absolutely dicked by South Africa. Edinburgh, where Scotland, they outscored us in that second half, and we had a good final 10 minutes. And now, Twickenham. And so you've got to ask yourself now, and you'll get to your comments in just a second, keep them coming, people. What is the game plan? What are the tactics? And it comes back to the coaching. I'm going to suggest one thing here. Is part of the job of an international rugby coach to somehow make your players better? You're meant to coach them, and you're meant to make them better players. And I'll give you some examples. Question. Has Rassie Erasmus made many of those South Africans better players? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
Did Andy Farrell make those Irish players under his tutelage better?
Yeah.
Has Joe Schmidt, through Ireland and maybe Australia, made those players better?
Yes.
Has Steve
Definitely
Borthwick made some of those England players better?
Yes.
Who has Scott Robertson made better in 2 years? Who has he demonstrably coached in 2 years to be much better players than they were 2 years ago?
Objectively speaking, ignoring the players who have debuted under Razor, or who, say, played 1 or 2 tests under Foz and have played a lot more under Razor, putting those guys to the side, so we're focusing on the guys who've been in the All Blacks for a number of years. Yeah. No one's better.
And look, and this is where we've got to be absolutely truthful about this.
Maybe Artie Savia,
Carve away all the PR stuff about Scott Robertson being a great guy and all of that. That's all goes without question. None of that is relevant here. It's whether or not you are able to coach this team, improve this team, and get us to Australia in 2027 as a team that can genuinely win the World Cup. Because that side that we saw today is not winning the World Cup.
No.
And this side all year, we haven't produced, ladies and gentlemen, a dynamic All Black performance all year. We've played really good in bits, and I've been saying this all season, great bits, and that first half was. There
For
was
about 15 minutes.
certainly
we were
bits
very,
of that.
very good.
Yeah. However, for all the resources, for every coach that's out there, we just aren't seeming to be able to put together 80 minutes on the field. And I question the leadership of the team as well, because when things are starting to go south, there's a leadership group of really experienced players. Who's calling the shots out there? There was one stage where Beauden Barrett had the ball, and he just looked as though he just threw it to Roy Gard and say, "You do it."
Yeah, Beauden Barrett's.
I wonder whether that's his last test as an All Black first five. Beauden, I have loved this guy as a player for his whole career, but the inability to just even do the most basic things right in an All Black jersey, like kick it out when we get a penalty. The decision-making under pressure seems to have gone. His inaccuracy when it comes to the goal kicking. In actual fact, at 9 and 10, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're weak as. I think this is a real problem for the All Blacks. You take out Roy Gard. At the moment, we don't have a first five that can control the game. And Cortez Ratama, I question whether he is an All Black halfback as well. The gap between him and Roy Gard is just immense. Maybe this is what, and a lot of people have been suggesting for weeks, we need. Maybe we need this result to actually really navel gaze at ourselves and start thinking, okay, who is actually up at that level and can play at All Black level? Playing Super Rugby and playing fantastic Super Rugby, it doesn't make you an All Black. You have to actually earn those stripes playing at international level. So, again, I come back to the coaches and, I don't know whether you can read into body language, but I'm looking at Razor on the side. He just absolutely looks confused. There are so many of them involved here. Our attack all year has been just dreadful, hasn't it? It just hasn't clicked all year. So that guy, whoever he is, Holland or Hansen or the line, whoever you all need, I think, to reapply for your jobs. And New Zealand Rugby need to decide who are the best people for that. There's none of this coach picking his mates, kind of all the yes men surround. None of that from here on. If we want to win the World Cup, we have to get really brutal about this and start assembling a team like the Black Ferns did in 2023 when they got Ted and Cron and Wayne Smith together and get the best possible brains, because at the moment, it's not working, Razor. Whatever you've got there isn't working. You've had 26 tests and the All Blacks are not a better team than they were in the World Cup final in 2023. Again, not angry about this at all. I salute you, England. I think you were absolutely brilliant today. But, we're looking at our performance and we're looking at ourselves, and it's just not good enough, and it hasn't been good enough all season, really. We've had moments, and those moments have been really good, but we're not putting it together.
Thoroughly agree. Thoroughly
Comments?
agree. Well, first off, I want to say a big thank you to Arcanum24 at Arcanum24, who's just donated $70. Thank you.
That is very kind of you. Now, you can hit the join button if you're watching on the DSPN YouTube next to subscribe, and that opens up the Changing Sheds to you, which is our new subscription service. Episode 3 out on Friday. I very much appreciate you for doing that.
Arcanum followed that up, by the way, by saying, it is really time that NZ Rugby consider catching up to the rest of the world and allow selection of international-based players. Scott Robertson was a big mistake. Guess we miss Fozzie now.
Okay, Ford's drop goals. I made a note about those. That is perfect test match rugby. That was an England side struggling in that first half, and somebody just decided, okay, we need to get something on the scoreboard here. This is what England were thinking, obviously. Let's just get inside their half and get a couple.
Because they've been in our half quite a bit.
And getting nothing from it. And I reference this because there was a couple of times in that first half, towards the end of the first half, where we had kickable penalties, or certainly that, they were chances to put another 3 points on the scoreboard. And this is where I question the leadership, that this is test match rugby. You've scored a couple of tries, absorbed a lot of early pressure. You've got an opportunity to extend the scoreboard by maybe to 11 points or 12 points or something like that, to take a breather, give your forwards a rest, and suck some momentum out of the game. And instead, what do? We choose to go for the corner. We mistouch. There was one other one, and it happened in I think it was the second half, which really I was infuriated at. And it was Leicester made a great break down the left wing. We're a metre from their line. Go back and look at the footage, people. There's not an All Black loose forward in sight.
Really?
The first three guys there are backs, and they turn it over at a counter ruck. This is our much vaunted loose forward trio. We seem to be... vulnerable to that at the moment as well, where I just don't know what the plan is. Are we committing guys to that? Are we waiting for somebody to do a miracle play and we're going to be the glory guy that gets the try at the end of it? There's some really good individual performances, but the problem is we're not playing as a team. And we don't seem to be able to regroup as a team when times get tough in matches. Again, this comes back to the coach and the coaching. Whatever they're infusing, whatever messages are coming out, however they're preparing, it's just not working at the moment. We've got to get better.
Yep. Let's
Keep
get
them
some
coming.
comments. Rito's Crusade. Why can't Jamie and Razor work together? There's a lot here, by the way, about coaching and potentially getting rid of the current coach. Boss of you, Razor for Prime Minister. Get out of here. Obviously, that's a joke. Ali Hajj says bring Foster back.
Ian's not coming back, mate. He's got a great job in Japan.
I don't think so. Yeah, I agree with that. Chad Stave says our country deserves better. The whole nation has had enough.
Everyone's got everyone as an All Black fan to be pretty gutted about it. Again, got to praise England because when we lose, there's always this reaction from us. Oh my God, it's doom and gloom and everything else. I don't believe it's totally doom and gloom. I just think some honesty is needed and some real clarity. I'm going to run through some questions for you here, Lachlan. Are we now back to where we were 2022 after losing at home to Ireland? Do we need a reset like we did then? And remember what happened. Ian Foster had Plumtree and Moore. Those were his guys. Those guys were sacked. And New Zealand Rugby brought in Jason Ryan. Do we need to do something like that now? Is it that drastic?
I'm trying to sort of compare the two teams because that team just felt, in 2022, just significantly worse than Ireland and South Africa when we played them. It was for the first time in a long time that I was like, actually, we're just not as good as these guys.
We aren't going to beat them, yeah.
And I'm not going into these tests thinking we can win them. But that obviously got turned around. This one feels more bleak. This team right now, the standard that they're at and the position this team is at feels more bleak because, and part of this is that they're not going to make a major change at the top. Like, for example, for Foster, they brought in Joe Schmidt and Jason Ryan. Jason Ryan pretty much fixed our line-out drive defence.
Yeah, that's right. We were conceding rolling maul tries.
Yeah, physically we improved. And then obviously Joe Schmidt was brought in and sort of sharpened up the team as a whole. Is NZ Rugby going to do that? If they do that, who is it?
I don't know.
There's been a lot of comments, by the way, about this. Is it Wayne Smith? So, our best test performance this year.
Are you out there, Wayne?
Our best test performance.
New Zealand Rugby needs you again, mate.
And I think everyone, if they sit down and think about it, can agree on this. The one test where you could see a lot of thought and planning had gone into certain set plays
Eden
and how
Park,
it started was Eden Park, South Africa.
Yeah.
And Tony Johnson made a good point of this afterwards when we had him on a couple of days later on the Monday, where he said that they'd clearly sat down and thought about how to counter these different things and catch South Africa off guard.
So
who was in camp that week leading up to that test?
We were in the media box. Who stopped and said hello?
Yeah, it was Wayne Smith.
Wayne Smith.
The professor.
Yeah, he was there, and he was there on site. Are we better than we were this time last year after losing to France?
No, I think
after losing to France.
I actually think we're worse. I really do.
So the All Blacks have gone backwards.
I think they have, because if you go back to that French performance, like the biggest issue with the All Blacks last year is we couldn't score in the final 20 minutes, so we would finish slow, which we actually have.
That's improved on this year.
We're actually scoring points in that final 20. It just so happens at the hour beforehand, we're not very good. That French test was a very good performance from the All Blacks, where we just gave away so many penalties towards the end, and France just started kicking points over, and before we knew it, we were behind, which is why it's one of the most infuriating defeats of the last couple of years, I think. But there was a lot to build on. We'd played really well against the Box in South Africa in the first test in particular. We'd obviously played really well in the second half against Ireland. For the first year under a new coaching regime, I was like, okay, there's a lot here to build on. You just got to extend that to 80 minutes and maintain that standard. Well, they've gone backwards. Because every test this year has been the same, where there are pockets of good moments and there's pockets, or for the large part, really poor moments. Apart from that, I think that Eden Park test against South Africa, which we've got to remember was in the wet, so it was an untidy game as it was, that's the only test that stands out where for at least an hour we were very much the better side.
I think we deserved to win that game.
Yeah.
But this is test number 12 of 2025.
Well, it's 25 of this coaching regime.
26.
26.
Test number 26.
Excuse me.
And again, you've just got to keep coming back to the questions. We're still clunky. We still look disorganised. We still don't seem to be able to put anything consistent together on attack. We make really weird decisions during games. Our on-field leaders don't seem to be able to seize control when we need them to seize control. We play really individual rugby.
Another shout out, by the way, to Arkenham, who's given us another $35. That's $105 from him today. Good on him. He actually added another comment, which is a fair point, and I think it's a very easy comment to sort of counter, more or less. Richie Mo'unga, Aaron Smith, Brody Retallick, and Shannon Frizzell, all ineligible because they are based overseas. Would their inclusion help? Mo'unga, yes. Frizzell, I don't think we need Frizzell.
I don't think we need Frizzell right now.
Then,
no disrespect to him, but I don't think we need him.
I think we're actually fine at blindside. And Brady Retallick and Aaron Smith
I'm not sure Retallick...
They're past their best.
Yeah, I think... Look, again, but I would like to bring these guys in and pick their brains about what they honestly think and let them go through the squad. This is what New Zealand Rugby have to do. Get on... Just stop shoveling us the PR schmuck for 5 minutes and do your jobs as administrators and actually look at it clinically and coldly and what do we need to do from here to win a World Cup. Just one thing on that. On Friday, if you want to actually, this to me absolutely encapsulates everything about New Zealand Rugby. There was a press release put out about Alan Bunting getting dumped as the Black Ferns coach. Well, look, you want to read this press release, you'd think he'd won the World Cup. The whole thing was just full of these flowery tributes about, he's created culture and this and that and the progress the team has made. You haven't beaten England since the World Cup final. Yeah. You lost to Ireland last year for the first time. You've been losing to France and now Canada have overtaken us. What improvement?
Yeah.
Mate, you failed. The word is failure. You failed. But instead we get this press release where you just think, my God, this guy's Santa, he's coming with a sleigh.
The best part of the press release was that it was titled New Zealand Rugby Big Process for next Black Ferns coach, and it's not until the 7th paragraph that they mentioned Alan Bunting's not continuing.
And the players are happy and the culture's great. I don't give a stuff, mate. I don't give a stuff about that. I want us to win matches. Yeah. You're a professional sports side. Yeah. This is the whole point. Your currency is winning. It's not having a happy culture and smiley, happy faces and putting out Instagram posts. It's about winning matches.
What has immortalised the All Blacks for over 100 years? Winning. It's not because they had smiles on their faces when they won a game in the 20s.
Another question for you, and we'll get your comments in a second. Thank you so much for them all. Why can't we learn how to cope and control high kicks? First couple of high kicks. I may have mentioned this. I'm going to go back to it if you've just joined us. First one, England put one up. First high ball was from Ford.
Well, this wasn't the one where he had about 10 years to wait and actually wind up. There was no pressure on it.
There was no pressure. No one actually contested. The next one,
been a second one.
The next one, Bowden Barrett turns his back away and drops it. That was the first two. So why, after 12 test matches this year and 14 last year, can we still not catch and control a high ball? Now, I watched on the breakdown, it must have been 2 or 3 years ago, Richard Kahuri was on there, right? Explaining how you do this, like physically explaining how you do this, how you jump, how you turn your back and that. We had a bomb squad of Israel Dagg, Corey Jane and him that managed to rescue the same situation for the All Blacks from 2009 where we were under all that pressure from South Africa and box kicks. We didn't know they called box kicks. They were just up and unders and Gary Owens, we called them in those days. Get those guys involved. Yeah. Because whoever's coaching our guys to do this, you failed. We haven't got any better at it. This is demonstrably... It's just so goddamn bloody stupid because we keep doing it every game.
I'll plug Tony Johnson again.
I said this before, and remember what Scott Robertson said, we're expecting high kicks from England.
Yeah.
Well, we're expecting it.
So why are we just kind of like letting them bounce?
Why are we letting them bounce? Why are you contesting it?
In 2009, and Tony brought this up in the podcast a couple of months ago, I think, in 2009, the coaches or the coaching group sat down and made an adjustment to who was positioned where, and Wayne Smith was essentially made a defensive coach to help with containing the up and unders, if you will.
And they actually they didn't get rid of Mills. I love Mills, but they actually moved Mills out of there because Mills got his 100th cap during that World Cup.
In the quarterfinal, I think, Argentina.
But he wasn't the first choice fullback. And they had to make positional adjustments and also actual selection adjustments. Again, you got to look for patterns, don't you? And this is what is, really underwhelming with our All Black side at the moment is we're making the same errors and getting beaten the same way. And those box kicks, it's turned into a bit of a laughing stock, isn't it? How do you beat the All Blacks? Just kick it up in the air. Just kick it up in the air. Yeah, it seems that simple these days. Another question for you. Is Watto right? Is Mark Watson right? In defence of Watto, who cops a hell of a lot of crap, but he's perhaps the only voice at the moment, as far as anyone talking about rugby in this country, who actually honestly says, and is happy to say it, a lot of us, the rest of us, we won't criticise this person or won't criticise that person just in case, we get on the wrong side or whatever. Well, he just comes out and says it. And every time he says it, he wears a hell of a lot. But in actual fact, he's been pretty much proved right throughout the year. Every so often we produce a great performance or a little bit of performance here, 20 minutes, Eden Park. Next week we get absolutely smacked.
Yeah, I love Watto. He uses some words sometimes Like he used one, I think, after the Argentina loss, where he said it was, I think, indefensible, or it was something even more extreme than that. And I thought it was.
He gets a bit over-emotive at times. That's no criticism.
No. It's only his emotion. You can't even criticise that. We all are emotional in different ways after results like this. But he is right in the sense that, any sort of issue with the All Blacks, with the players, with the coaching staff, there's no prejudice around it. It is purely down to winning, right? As you say, that's the most important currency.
Yep.
So it's not because we dislike Razor or we love him because of this or whatever, or the players. It's down to the results. And Watto is looking at this in the same way that we do. He probably just expresses it earlier and more intensely, that where's the progress? I referenced that 08 to 11 cycle a lot, because in 2009 we weren't playing well. We lost 5 matches, 4 tests. One of them was a Barbarians game. We got to this game against France at the end of the year, who we'd lost to at the start of the year at Carisbrooke. And I remember thinking, what suggests we're going to win this? We've been awful all year. And we turned it around and pummeled them in Marseille. And it was a great performance. That was like, here we go.
Right.
We're waiting for that performance. Yeah. Where's that here we go performance?
And it's not Wales next week, okay? Forget that. It's not Wales next week. This is a Welsh
Japan
side
by 1 point.
Got a drop goal with 4 minutes extra time or something like that. This isn't Wales next week, okay? This was, we called it a litmus test at the start of the week, a barometer. Where are the All Blacks at? This game was the game, because it puts in perspective everything else in the year. And quite clearly, we are a team that is in trouble, and a team that has got a lot of fixes that need to happen. So, do we change the team for Wales? Here's another question for you. Do we make mass changes? Do we do what the people want? Do we bring in your Ruben Loves? Do we do all of that kind of stuff?
Without a doubt. Look, I love Beauden Barrett as much as the next guy. Beauden Barrett is getting on in his age, and
he's not going to the World Cup now. I think that's obvious after that game.
Well, based on current form, he's not. No. But he's not in the 23 for a knockout game of the World Cup, I don't think. But based on current form, if Mo'unga comes in and Mo'unga delivers close to what we hope he can.
I've been a big supporter of Beauden Barrett. I love this guy as a player, but everyone's tenure reaches a time, and I think
he's not far off 35. There's a lot of rugby owners about this dude. Debuted for us in 2012. He's been around a long time. It's not, I think maybe just age and body are just catching up a bit with him. So it's not really a criticism. But yeah, start Ruben. Like, bring in all these guys who have been on the out. Like, start Duplessis Karifi, for example. Give this guy another shot. Start Sam Derry with Holland in the second row with Josh Lord. Start those two guys. Bring in these younger players. Get Ollie Norris involved in the starting team. Have Ruben Love at 10 for sure. Noah Hotham, is he healthy? I'm pretty sure he is. Start him at 9. Bring in these young, because here's the thing, the position we don't want to have ourselves in is that, let's say we put all our eggs into the basket of what we think is our best 23, which has a mixture of older heads and younger heads and players in form. We get to the World Cup, let's say we lose in the semi-finals, let's say we lose to France or South Africa, one of those two teams, and we get to the end of this cycle and we sit there and go, who have we actually blooded that we can now bring into the team for this next cycle? Because if we keep going with Beauden Barrett and Damien McKenzie and then Richie Mo'unga, look, that's great for the short term, but it doesn't help us out long term.
And look, when you look at McKenzie, who came on, and again, you're asking him to control a game in that second half, it just didn't happen again. So I really respect this guy as a player. I love him as a player. I think coming off the bench, he provides a hell of an impact. But we are crying out in this country for a first five who can control a game of rugby. Now, George Ford is not a spectacular player, and he copped a hell of a lot of crap after missing that drop goal last year. But just the game nous of that guy to do what he did in the first half and drag that England side back into reckoning when it was 12. It
was 12-0.
It was 12-0.
And then it was 12-5.
Yeah, the try. But the two drop goals were the things. And the second one was from about 40-something metres. And it was just... Look, I go back to 1999 and the semi-final against France, if you were around and can remember this. We were 14-0 up. Jonah just strode through them. At the beginning of the second half, no one wanted to tackle him. It was just great. They got the ball. He just basically had 5 defenders going that way, and he just ran through. 14-0 up. And then all of a sudden, they got the ball and they kicked a drop goal. And you're thinking, what kind of loser are you? You're kicking a drop goal. Okay, gap close to 11. Got the ball again, kicked another one. What are you doing, France? Come on, 8. Play rugby. 8. Got the ball again, got a penalty. All of a sudden, it's 5. All of a sudden, a try puts them ahead. They got a try, and then they ran away with it. That is really intelligent test rugby is what Ford did, and I don't think we've got a first 5 at the moment in New Zealand who has that. Maybe it is Mo'unga. Maybe Mo'unga comes back. But you're relying on a guy that's going to be really old at the next World Cup. That's going to be closer to 35 than he is to 25.
Yeah, Mo'unga, I think, is essentially a World Cup cycle younger than Beauden Barrett. I think I'm just sort of trying to line up where they debuted and whatnot. Just quickly, we've had a couple more donations, and thank you very much to these people. We've had a very big one from Chad Stave. Thank you very much, Chad, and you've attached a comment as well saying, I never comment, but enough is enough. Beauden Barrett is lost. He's an amazing player, but it's time to let him go. Our forward pack make the gain line, and then we kick it away, which puts pressure on the team. I actually agree with that. I think physically our forwards just can't match up with the likes of England and South Africa and a full-strength French side who we haven't played in a little while, but we do struggle with those. We've had another donation from Kiwi Raider 9128. Thank you very much. If Rassie was our coach, Ruben Love would have test caps already. Well, yeah, because he'd be doing a lot more depth building. Just quickly on George Ford. He started that semi-final against us in 2019, by the way.
No.
He started at 10.
Did he?
Yep. Owen Farrell was playing inside centre.
Can't
George
remember
Ford
that.
started at 10.
Might have been about 8 beers deep in Tokyo at that stage. I poured the last 8 on my head, actually.
I think he kicked all 5 of his goals, or he kicked 5 out of 6 or 7, so he was
God,
pretty
they
good with
dicked
the
us
boot.
that day, England.
They did. Now, also, at the World Cup in 2023, in their opening game against Argentina, George Ford kicked a bucket load of drop goals and just kept on applying the scoreboard pressure to Argentina. I'm pretty sure England finished with 27 points. I have a feeling all of those points came from penalties and drop goals.
I think you're right.
I have a
I
feeling.
think you're right. Actually, I think you're right.
Maybe not all of it, most of it at the very least. So George Ford's actually got a little bit of a habit of test matches and beating us, 2019, being good with his boot and reliable, and putting scoreboard pressure on opposing teams. And he's actually been around for a little while. Where's our version of that?
Yeah.
Like a Andre Pollard, Mornay Steyn years ago, he would do that. He'd kick drop goals from, Francois Steyn would kick them from 50 metres out as well. So these guys would put the scoreboard pressure on. We don't really have that guy.
All right.
We haven't since Carter.
Another question for you. England play Argentina next week. Have they overtaken us? I don't give a rat's what the world rankings say. At the moment, to me, it's South Africa. Okay?
Agreed.
Right. And then let's start looking at the rest. England now overtake us. I don't care what the points say. I'm not interested in what they say. We all know England are a better side right now than the All Blacks. They just played us off the park, right? I wonder whether we would beat a full-strength French side. We didn't last year. Sure, we beat France 3 times this year. It wasn't a full-strength French side. I would say that the All Blacks are probably 4th at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if we played France next week, a full-strength French side. Would you be confident of beating them?
No, not at all. Not at all. France last week, by the way, in their first test of the season, were toe-to-toe and playing a little bit better than the Springboks for about 60 minutes and then fell away at the end. I very much think that as much as the Springboks, brilliant at the moment, best team in the world, I do think if the French were halfway through their season or had a few tests under their belt to build up for that, I think that's a closer game. I think that, 'cause we've talked about this big four of world rugby being South Africa, New Zealand, Ireland, and France for the last couple of years. I think you can take Ireland out of there for the time being and put England
I agree.
in.
I think Ireland are
say
fifth.
that's it.
I think Ireland are fifth.
So I'd probably go South Africa, France, England, us, Ireland. But I think
England did beat France in the Six Nations.
They did. Well, yes, but I think France are a better side at the moment, in my opinion.
So the rankings are the feel rankings, are they?
The vibe
After
rankings.
we do all of this year, all year you say to me that there's no such thing as vibe rankings. You've just done vibe rankings.
Yeah, but France won the Six Nations.
Yeah, but England beat them.
Yeah, but they won the Six Nations. We beat South Africa. We split the series with them this year. So shouldn't we be on a level playing field with them?
Take that result out. Take the All Blacks win at Eden Park out. This season would be considered one of our worst. Okay? I know you can't take it out because we did beat them and that'd been the first time we'd lost to them 4 times in a row. But these are the stats. We've lost 5 of the last 6 versus South Africa. We are 2-2 with Argentina over the last couple of years. I'm not going to count that England side that came here in July last year. We beat them 16-15 and we won the other one by about 5 points. Scratchy as
I think if both tests had Marcus Smith or whoever their goalkeepers were, Marcus
and it wasn't full strength,
had kicked all their goals, they would have beaten us both.
So the last 4 results, I believe, are the ones that you count against England. 2019, they thrashed us. 2022 was a draw. Last year, they were a field goal, a drop kick away from beating us, and they've just dicked us again. Okay? Then you look at France. Well,
you could actually throw 2018 in the mix as well. We won by 1 point.
The last 2 times we played the full-strength French side at the World Cup.
Lost.
Last year.
Objectively, at the World Cup, we had a couple of injury niggles right before kickoff. I think Sam Cane was ruled out and we had to play Tupuvai at blindside and Dalton started as well.
My point being that the only sides we're consistently beating at the moment are Ireland and Australia.
Yeah.
Out of those, again. So you've got to look at it as holistically and you've got to look at patterns. And you've had 26 test matches now at Razor. Next week is 27. We're going to beat Wales. I don't disbelieve that. I think that we're going to easily beat Wales because we will bounce back. The All Blacks always do. But then you've got to actually draw a line under the sand underneath it and say you've had 2 years and 27 tests and where are we at? And if you look back at this season, where again we haven't been able to put together what you'd consider to be a really good All Black performance. We haven't. The Eden Park against South Africa was as good as it gets, but for the last 10 minutes with 14 men, we were really we survived it, but we're under the cosh. That aside, the season now gets what? A B minus?
No. Oh, stop it. No, that's way too generous. That's far too if this was year one, yeah, I'd say something like a B minus because we've won.
Well, this was the litmus test and we failed the litmus test.
So how many tests have we played this year?
We played 12.
So we've got 13 in total. So assuming we beat Wales next week, that means, well, we will beat Wales.
We'll finish 10
That
and
would
3.
be 10 and 3, which in the first year under Razor is actually a pretty good record. This isn't the first year, this is the second year. Now, I think there was much more to be excited about last year and to build off of. So, in my opinion, we've gone backwards. But again, where is the progress? There is no progress. And if it's year 2 and we're getting closer and closer and closer to that World Cup and we don't have that progress, like a lot of people, for example, are going to compare this tenure a lot to Foster's. And people are going to say, well, 1 year out from the World Cup, Foster lost 5 in the space of 6 and nearly got sacked. Well, we don't want that situation. No. So just because that happened doesn't mean if Razor, say,
we
loses...
should learn the lessons from that.
Yeah,
is what
we shouldn't just go, oh, well, at the, we know we can sort of endure that. No, we don't want that. And the thing about Scott Rowe, look, I'm a Razor fan to an extent.
I am.
Obviously, as we talk about in sports, all that matters is the results, and the results aren't quite there at the moment. Look, man, you wanted this job, and you knew you were getting it for about a year and a half. Okay, you were nearly ushered in there in 2022, and then they obviously had to
all the time
that.
to prepare for this, plus get all your coaches in place to get the right people in the right positions. It's not working, mate.
And was confirmed in the role publicly, I think, in March of 2023. Might have been April, May.
Yeah, we had Ian on the program driving back. Remember?
Yep.
He actually rang us and talked about. Here's one here. Is it time that the All Blacks players should be allowed to play overseas? Because the question being, is Super Rugby adequate preparation? The answer is no. And this is part of the problem the All Blacks have now, is that...
I don't think this rule won't ever change. Not anytime soon.
I don't think it will. But, I look at guys like Summer Penifino, who just looks an absolute weapon at Super Rugby and then looks lost at international rugby. Cortez Ratima, who looks great at Super Rugby level, just can't seem to make that gap up in the most important games. I don't think it adequately prepares our players. There is no solution to this because New Zealand Rugby won't change the rule. And although they may adjust it for somebody like Mo'unga, but the absence of the South African teams and the level of competition that their teams and players present to our players, the challenges, the different kind of challenges, it's taking its toll. This is what we're seeing now is a result of 3 or 4 years of not having the contact with those guys. And we can beat up on the Western Force and the other Aussie teams and so forth and look great, but at the moment we don't have in the All Blacks a wealth of world-class talent. And so then what you've got to get is a group of coaches who can mould the players that they have, raise the standard of those players and produce a collective performance. Now, when that doesn't happen, then you've got to go back to the coaching panel and go, why isn't that happening? Why can't you guys improve these players and improve this team? And that is an honest assessment of where we're at the moment. Again, I'm not angry about this. I full praise for England, but it's not like what we're seeing isn't something that we didn't know. In the back of most of our minds, I think, and even when you watch that game against Ireland, for the first 60 minutes, we were just so unco in that game. You're thinking, that was the 9th test match we'd played this year.
Similar to the Argentina loss.
Yeah, you just, and that's why I raised all those questions that day. It wasn't being negative or not being a fan. I love this team. I will always love this team. But you're looking at that performance and going, it's not really of the standard and quality you expect from an All Black side. The last 20 minutes were... The last 15 against Scotland were, and 10 minutes against England
That
were.
is not the standard that this team has set for decades.
That's it.
I agree with you that we don't have the same level of talent, say we had 10, 15 years ago. That's obvious. There's no point really addressing that. I don't think we were the leaders in world-class talent at the last World Cup. Like, if you were to compare the best 15s of each nation, heading into the tournament at least, obviously I think we really turned it up at the tournament, you would have to say that based on form, Ireland and South Africa's teams were better than ours, and probably France's as well. So, in terms of not being the leaders in the world-class talent department, I don't think a lot has changed in a couple of years, and yet we look like a worse team.
Well, 2019, remember, we haven't been the best team in the world since then, and we are a way away from being the best team in the world right now. Again, it's just... We demand a higher standard. I don't want the All Blacks to be the Warriors. I don't want the All Blacks to be a marketing arm of a promotion company that sells jerseys and sells tickets and is full of Instagrams and memes and all of this kind of bollocks. I don't care about that stuff. I just want the team to win. And the problem the Warriors have is there's no culture of winning in that club. You know, they're a team that has almost been excused from winning over the years. Andrew Webster is changing that. And we actually spoke to him. We're going to bring that interview to you in the next couple of weeks. We spoke to him on Friday. And it's amazing when you talk to that guy. His attitude is just he doesn't care about anything apart from winning games of rugby league.
Get him to talk to the players.
That's all he cares about. And I want the All Blacks to act to that. Enough of this PR fluff and guff and schmuck. None of it is relevant. It doesn't matter whether we perform an inspiring haka before the game. You don't get any points for doing that. This All Black side is out there to play great rugby and win test matches. And if we can't play great rugby, to win test matches. And that second half was as a poorer performance as we've seen from us. We don't look as though we know what we're meant to be doing out there. And then we rely on individual plays and we get undone.
Will Jordan breaking the game open, that kind of vibe.
Well, yeah, just guys, looking at I think that Beauden Barrett throwing the ball to Roygaard to me summed up the whole game. He just didn't look as though he knew what the hell to do.
Yeah, Barrett had a really poor about minute and a half in the second half where he kicked the ball dead and then he chip-kicked it when we didn't need to, and then a few minutes after that didn't get the ball out on a penalty. Beauden Barrett in the second half in particular was really ordinary. Shout out to Kerry Hurst who signed up. He is now a member of Changing Sheds. Thank you very much, Kerry. JPS says, considering they beat England 4 times last year, I think 3 times we played them last year, today's result proves regression. Time for Team Hurasi to go. That's from JPS. A great comment here from FRU number 1. As a POM, I can't emphasise how much everyone wanted this one. We've had one eye on it since... But they've had one eye on it since February. What does that tell you? We haven't had one eye on this test at all. To be fair, we had eyes on both tests against South Africa this year. Probably last year we started having eyes on that. But we obviously have not taken this game as seriously as the others. Ambrose Timo, who's donated some money. Thank you very much, Ambrose. Our star players have never been threatened of losing their jersey. Oh, yes, Ambrose, I agree with this. As they always get picked on reputation, holding on to them has stemmed AB growth. I absolutely agree, and I talked about this a lot this year. There is no consequence for poor performance in this team, which is weird because last week I said that I think Beauden Barrett should still be our first 5, and maybe getting Ruben Love in there now.
Well, there's no consequence for poor performance from the coaching staff as well. And do remember what Ian Foster copped and the changes that were made after losing to Ireland. We'd lost 5 test matches and 6 at that stage, and 2 of his coaches went. Again, we started the show by saying this. We've got a couple more minutes to go and then we'll let you go, people. It's a beautiful sunny day out there. Lachlan, you're going to lunch with a new girlfriend.
Did you?
This is what I wrote immediately after the game. We are a nation suffocated under a river of PR mush, fancy Instagram posts, a compliant fanboy media fed a diet of schmuck stories and giggle fest analysis. I'm sick of the marketing campaign. I just want the All Blacks to win. 3 losses to 3 different teams this year. 3 huge, significant losses. And that's the thing. That's the worrying aspect about it. Argentina, the Box, and now England. I've been saying all week this is the litmus test that defines the season, and just like the Black Ferns, we failed. And I don't want to see in the next couple of weeks, even though we are going to see it, a whole lot of NZRP are just about this and that of the players, this, and we've taken over Chicago and we've done all of this. We're failing on the field, you morons. Your job is to actually get the All Blacks to a position where we actually are the best in the world again. You're failing at it, NZR.
One last comment to bring you because he gave us a bit of cash. Thank you very much. At XX Lone Wolf XX. Apart from Artie, we don't have any loose forward dogs.
Couple of things to finish with. Thoroughly average is what I put, and that is probably the biggest insult you can ever throw at any All Black side. We are ordinary. And that's worse than getting angry about it, to sit there and say the All Blacks are average. And on the BBC, do you know what the headline was?
What was it?
New Zealand aura evaporates. Oh. There you go.
Yeah.
Love the All Blacks, but serious questions about whether or not those in charge from the coach down are the right people to be doing the job through to the World Cup. I think those are fair comments to make and fair questions to ask. I'm not saying get rid of Razor. I think he is the guy, but I think every single other person associated with him and his coaching group, microscope needs to come on every one of them. What exactly is your job? How are you going about your job? What are you achieving in that job? Has the team gone backwards? And if the answer to that last question is yes, well then I think it's time that you need to reapply for that job and to see whether or not there are other people out there who are better at it than you. We are 2 years out from a World Cup. Every now and again, you need one across the mush, don't you? You need a nut punch. I thought that we'd already had that this year with Wellington, but I think that this result sets us back even more than that Wellington result did, because we were building momentum again. We had 2 against Australia. Yeah, we looked scratchy against Ireland, but we won. Yeah, we looked scratchy against Scotland, but we won. You can't have a game plan called hope, where you just hope that the team gets it together in the last quarter of a game. Again, it comes back to the coaching staff. You've got to be better than this. England, congratulations. Absolutely brilliant. This week on the program, we're going to do a good couple of days of postmortems and navel gazing. Tim Cocker from the Egg Chasers. If you watch that podcast on YouTube, Egg Chasers podcast, is going to join us this week. Absolutely brilliant he is. He's at every single game. I love watching his stuff. We're also going to look at the Ashes this week as well, because, man, if you love your cricket, it doesn't get better than that starting next weekend, does it? I hope you enjoy your Sunday, even though it's a bit sulky after we lost. The sun's shining. Barbecue weather here in Auckland. Let's do some of that. Regroup again. Come back against Wales. But be honest about our appraisal of this team and be absolutely brutal when it comes to how we can improve, because we need a lot of that before next year's tour of South Africa and even before we look at the Rugby World Cup. I thank you so much for joining us here live on the DSPN. Appreciate it, every single one of you. Appreciate all your comments, and we'll get back to as many as we possibly can during the week. All right.